Send it to Courtney. Okay.
You'll be on YouTube probably. Good morning and welcome to another episode of Alabama Care. I am Lane Hagan and today I have with me Mr. Brian Schubert and Miss Chrissy Schubert. Would y'all introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves and the family, and let's go from there.
You want to go on the family?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm Chrissy, and I'm one of the founders of Addie's Army, and of course, it's my husband Brian. We have 3 children. Bailey is our oldest. He's 25 in the Air Force. We have Camden, who is our middle son. He's 15, and then Addie is our youngest at 13. She is our inspiration for Addie's Army.
Tell me a little bit more about Miss Addie. Tell me a little bit about what life has been like and what led y'all to start Addie's Army.
Whew. Gosh, I could go a million different ways with that. Addie. So Addie was diagnosed with autism at 2.5. She is probably what they would have considered low functioning, non-speaking autistic. So when she was diagnosed at 2.5, I would say those were our hard days. Autism back then was ruthless. It was confusing. We were new at it. We didn't know anything about it. It was very intense. It was hard to even breathe, I feel like, when all of this came on so suddenly. We were up pretty late in the night just researching, finding places, traveling, doing research studies, participating. Why did she have this huge regression so suddenly? What caused it? Why was she looking at us one day and the next she wasn't? It was almost like someone came and took her in the middle of the night and left like this little girl that didn't look at me or speak to me anymore. But I would say from about 2.5 to 8 were really, 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 really difficult years, to the point where there was a lot of self-injury, a lot of anxiety. She did not sleep through the night, maybe like 2 hours at a time. She didn't want to wear clothing, so there was a lot of fighting off the clothing. We would have to hold her down. It was just a really hard season. With that, I would say around the age of 8, we had kind of a breakthrough with her. We decided to try a new type of therapy that would result in us presuming competence in her, even though looking at her, you would think she wasn't in there. This is a child we're talking about that's still smearing poop on the walls. And, it's to think that you're going to presume competence with a child like that. It's hard to wrap your brain around. But we started this program with her, and we realized really quickly that not only was she in there, but she's very intelligent. And it just kind of rocked our whole worlds.
What therapy was it?
It's called a rapid prompting method. And it's where we do age-level academics, and we focus on activating that side of her brain that can really get into what she's thinking. And she will spell on a board, or she actually handwrites now, or on her iPad 1 letter at a time to share her thoughts, do schoolwork, pick from a menu what she wants to eat.
That's incredible.
Those sorts of things.
So during those first, you said 2.5 to 8, what kind of services was she receiving? Were y'all plugged in Birmingham, or
Yeah. We just moved to Birmingham at literally the summer she got diagnosed. And so we had some early intervention. We quickly went to ABA because that's what they said, would change everything. So we did that. It was very expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And all insurance was not paying. And so we had her in a special school for ABA for about 3 years. And we did all the other things, speech, occupational therapy. Nothing really seemed to work for Addie.
So how were the older siblings with this? I can imagine it was very tough on them as well, but tell us a little bit about that.
That part's hard to talk about because looking back, it's like, you know, you feel guilty, but you can't really feel guilty because there really wasn't any other way. But, you know, when we say all eyes on Addie, it was all eyes on Addie because we had to have all eyes on Addie because if you turn your back, you know, she's, you know, sneaking out the back door or, you know, breaking some piece of glass or eating a bulb off our Christmas tree. I mean, you name it.
It's always something, right?
Yeah, and so, you know, with the boys, I think they had to give up a lot.
And got neglected in time,
Yeah.
or with our time.
Yeah, our time, our money, all of those things, they had to sacrifice a lot. And, you know, they've talked about it some, you know, and just opened up that it was hard, but at the same time, they do understand.
So all of this, y'all realized y'all had to do something. You had to find a way to make a difference. So tell us about when Addie's Army started and what prompted all of that.
So yeah, I mean, it started, the paperwork, so to speak, started in 2004, or end of 2003, but beginning of 2004. And it really came about just from friends helping us out, knowing we were in dire straits because Addie was now having to go into a new therapy that we thought would help her. And she was about 4.5 at this time. And financially, we had already been pretty hard wrecked for the last 2.5 years, and this one was going to make it even harder. And we just had friends that got together and formed a fundraiser. They didn't have a nonprofit start or anything; it was just strictly for us, and it basically allowed us to breathe. I mean, their goal was to raise $7,000. And they ended up raising 30 in about 4 hours. And actually, again, the date was October 6th, so almost, let's see, yeah, and I guess the anniversary is coming up. October 6th of 2013, and that was a Saturday, and we drove back to Birmingham, and we felt led, and we felt, you know, God saying, you need to bless other families the way you've been blessed. And that's really how Addie's Army came about. And we didn't have really a concept or an idea of like, what service do we want to provide? We were very thoughtful in that we wanted to have services where people could actually see if they were donating $1, what it was going to go towards. And so all of these services really came about. And again, Addie, at that time, we had only been in autism for 2.5 years, but all these services or branches of Addie's Army really are things that we either researched, hoped for, or struggle with, whether it was insurance or whether it was services not available. And that's really what it came about. So our eyes were really like, okay, well, what's been difficult in our journey in these, at that time, 2.5 years. And that's where the branches came about for Addie's Army. And so we officially launched in May of 2015 after we got all the paperwork and legalities and whatnot. And that's really the inspiration and when we started.
So tell us about the different branches. You know, I think that there's, what, 6 or 7 of them that are active, so.
I think so. I lose count sometimes, but yeah. So some have been with us since day one. For example, Addie's Barracks. You know, Chrissy kind of alluded to earlier. Addie, you know, we always had to hands on deck with her. She would run out the back gate or run out the back door or whatever, and we had to kind of autism-proof our house and having alarms. But there were times where we had things open, and she eloped, and she was almost killed a couple times. She'd gotten a huge head start on us. So Barracks has been with us from the get-go. Gosh, I have to kind of review here all the different ones we do. Addie's Symphony, actually everything on there Barracks is the original one. We've taken a couple off, but as Addie's have grown and gotten older, all these other branches here are things that we've noticed that, hey, she may need at this age, and or, hey, this is what parents need too, because one of the things that you asked was about, you know, her siblings, her brothers, and neglecting time. Well, we also neglected ourselves, our marriage. It was very stressful. I mean, even if we had the time to go out to dinner or whatever to work on our marriage, it may not have been the most financially smart thing to do. And so that's how Respite came about. Fins was, we had tried 2 swim instructors here in Birmingham. Addie loved to swim, but she couldn't swim, and
She loved to drown.
she loved to drown. She really liked the sensation. Like, you could drop her in a public pool and she would just look at you smiling and never move. And of course, obviously, we'd have to get her up. But, the risk of her when she escaped that one night in particular, had she gotten into a body of water at that time, the outcome was probably not going to be a good one. And but we had already tried 2 swim instructors, and then Fins came about, where we had heard about an instructor in Destin, and that was in 2015, I believe. And we took her down there for spring break, and she learned to swim in literally 3 days. When I say swim, like proficiently swim, get underwater, and so we were like, this would be a really good thing for kids, because, a lot of, and now we're more inclusive as far as special needs, but at the time we focused on autism. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, Addie's Fins started today in Tennessee for a week, and then it'll be in Decatur, and then it'll be in Birmingham the next 2 weeks. And this is our, I think, 6th or 7th year. The only year we didn't do it was because of COVID. But we bring Coach Mary up here every year, and it started off the first year just eight special needs kids, and it was 1 week, and it's now progressed to a month long over the last 3-4 years. And it's actually one of the only ones that we do outside of Alabama, is that 1 week in Tennessee, just because it's right on the border. But yeah, so those are, like I said, they're all things that we've researched, struggled, or hoped for in our journey, and that it's just all services other than Racers. Racers is the only thing that we've done that we do, that we want to build the whole entire special needs community that we've done every year, Barber. So, and this will be our 5th time doing it, since we didn't do it because of the year of COVID. But yeah.
So we hit on a few of them. So let's go in a little bit more on Racers, because I know it's probably one of your bigger events, I would say, from my knowledge of the organization. So tell us more about what that looks like, who's available to come to that, and then how you got some of the celebrities involved with that, because I think that what y'all have done there has been incredible.
Yeah, so that really, when we formed Addie's Army, Chrissy and I sat down, and I gave her this idea of like, okay, we need to create an event to really build the special needs community outside of autism, because we were working solely on autism, but with cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, whatever it was. And I used to race before marriage and kids and all that stuff, and I had a real passion for racing, and we were like, let's figure out what it takes to rent Barbers and do race cars, kids. And we were focusing also not just make it inclusive, but also for the siblings too, because we were thinking about her brothers and saying, hey, the siblings of special needs need a break too. And so it's open to all special needs and the siblings and the families, and we rent it out. It's a private event. Like I said, this is our 5th year, and we always do it usually about a week before Christmas, the way it falls on the calendar. And it's just expanded over the years to where, we had 30, 40 different types of race cars and drivers that donate their time and energy. And then we have Santa Claus, because a lot of these parents don't want to fight the lines at the mall. Then we kind of have like now rides, and then we have horseback riding that Barber allows us. And then last year was the first year that we did the off-road with Jeeps, and we had no idea it was there until they told us about it, and we're like, well, I think that'll probably work. And it's a really legit off-road, like through the rivers and mountains, which we had no idea. And it was a huge hit. As a matter of fact, I know it was, because Addie typed out more Jeep please over the race cars. So she spent a majority of their time up there. But, last year we had Tim Tebow as the Grand Marshal. The first couple of years we had Bobby Allison, and we always try to have whoever the Grand Marshal is of our event of someone who is related to the racing world, faith-based, and or something in the special needs community. And some of them have checked off one box, some of them checked off all 3. I think actually today or tomorrow, I don't remember, we will announce who our Grand Marshal is this year, now that Addie's Racers registration is closed. So I won't say it yet because I can't remember if it's today or tomorrow. But we're excited who's coming this year. So that's what Racers is.
Gotcha. So I know y'all have a new one that you're very excited about. Let's talk about Addie's Big Army.
Yeah. So I told you some about Addie. As we began to realize, just how much was in there, like how amazing this child is. Like, she's just, like, I don't even think I could put words to describe how amazing she is. Like, and had we never known, that breaks my heart to think about it. But just knowing just the joy that's in her and just what she's capable of and how much she loves life, we began to feel led by the Lord to begin traveling and visiting different long-term residential places across the U.S. that had a great reputation. So as we started the journey, it was really hard because we would walk in an amazing place, amazing. And every time I would get in the car, I would cry. And I didn't know why, I would just cry. The adults were happy, they had some purpose, but it just felt sad. And so we just continued to visit and explore these different places. And when we went to Austin, Texas to do some of Addie's therapy with the RPM, we visited this place called Brookwood in Georgetown, which is big. And when we walked in, we were so full of joy. Like, we could feel heaven there. And it was just this overwhelming sense of, this is it. And not only this is it, like, can we move here? Like, we want to be here. And the citizens, they call them citizens, they were so proud and so excited to share with us their work. So BIG is actually a God-centered vocational community where adults with special needs contribute by selling things that they create, meaningful work. So a lot of the things that they create are, artwork. They're bakers. They make pottery, jewelry, spa products. They do cards. One of the things we plan on doing is a lot of our adults that can't speak can spell, and just to have some of their amazing, insightful poetry or quotes to share with the world on cards. We're going to be making fudge. So it's just different items that they are selling. So we will launch in February of 2023 on Valentine's Day, and we will be a replication of BIG. So it will be Addie's Big Army. We will start off with 8 citizens and add a citizen every month.
And you'll have a location yet?
We have a free church space right now at Lakeside Baptist Church. Mm-hmm. The goal is to be there for about 2 years, hopefully, and while we're there, we're really going to be pushing heavy into the fundraising to get our permanent land. Once we get the permanent property, we will have a workspace where they will come and work, and we will have a gift shop where they sell the items that they create attached to a coffee shop and a bakery where they will work as well.
And have you already had your citizens selected, or how's the process going with that?
We have a lot of interest. We have our training in next month. It's like a month from today.
Yeah.
We'll be heading to Georgetown to get trained. Once we do that, we can start selecting our citizens.
And how much staff do you think it will take to make it go?
When we're first starting off with just 8 citizens, we're going to need a program director and a lead teacher, and then we'll be relying heavily on some volunteers as well. So,
But for every for every 8 citizens you add another lead teacher. And so it's a slow, steady progress. But when we start off in February, it'll be 1 program director, 1 lead teacher, and then you're adding a citizen, adult, per month. And then when you get to 8, that's when you have to get a second lead teacher, I should say.
I remember when you were talking about it at the golf tournament last year, and I don't think we had discussed it until then, or it may have not have been you, but maybe Mario, but I had not heard about it. So when I heard about it, I was just like, wow, like that's incredible. We go to charity events all the time, and it's like some of them I don't really feel as touched, but that one really, I was in tears. I was just like, this money we put to this golf tournament is making a difference in a community that needs it more than anything. And that was incredible to me personally. So I think it's awesome. And
we didn't talk about it as much because we were still making sure we got approved on the replication process with BIG. But when we went in June of June of 21, Chrissy had said we visited a lot of different places pre-COVID, after COVID, and when we went to the BIG at Brookwood, it was the first time I'm like, okay, if they have a replication process, this is who we want to replicate it to a T. Like, it was just seeing the joy and the purpose that these citizens had. Like, they want to come to work, they want to produce. And so we didn't get approval from BIG that they would partner with us, I think, until November, December of last year. And then it was like we had to start looking for space immediately. And then we found space at the end of January. Well, we visited with Lakeside, they approved us. And then, so it was last October was in the infancy stage of where we were. We knew what we wanted and where we wanted to go with it. And we're getting there. It's kind of one of those things, it's like hurry up and wait, but it's coming now. And February 14th of 2023, and 2 to 3 years at Lakeside, and in that time trying to find land.
Yeah.
For those that don't know the Birmingham area, where is Lakeside?
Off Acton Road.
Okay. That's what I thought. What will the, citizens' requirements be? Are we talking 18 and up? Are we talking 21 and up? What's the requirements there?
We have that at 21 and up. Not to say that, if the right circumstance came up, would we take a 20-year-old? Probably. While we're at Lakeside, we'll have to go through a pretty deep interview process because it has to be the right fit, especially being in free church space. We have to select our citizens carefully, interviewing them and their families. But it will be pretty specific, and BIG will help us with that.
Will there be a cost associated for the citizens or scholarships?
We are a private organization, and so we are starting an endowment.
Mm-hmm. And I can speak to that later.
Yeah, so we do plan on scholarshiping a lot, but even without that, for every 8 citizens, we can scholarship 1 citizen.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I think it's incredible. I know the need is there. I know personally I've thought about, like, what does Libby's long-term life look like? And we've been told so many times she wouldn't live to be that long, or that old, but I'm just like, y'all were wrong. So many times the thought of me and my wife getting older and not being able to take care of her and not really having somewhere to go that's not a state facility was a scary reality. And so hearing about this is super encouraging, and I commend y'all for doing it because not many people have, clearly. But let's shift a little bit. So I know you mentioned that y'all do Addie's Fins in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Do y'all only serve the state of Alabama?
Yes, yes. The short answer is yes, and really the reason is for an example, with Addie's Barracks, I can't say every state, but I know that we've had probably 18 requests this year from 15 different states, and it was really hard to raise funds, because the very first year we raised funds for some families outside for when we were doing service dogs and barracks and some other stuff. But it became too overwhelming to try to help somebody in New York or California or Utah. And, you know, we're very community, and, you know, our niche is Birmingham and Alabama. But we are hoping, the one branch that we want to take nationally is barracks, because there's such a need, and it's a really difficult thing to tell families, no, I'm sorry, we can't help you because you don't live in Alabama, because you get we read those desperate letters. They don't want a fence for aesthetics reasons. They want it for safety and or just peace. You know, a lot of what the people don't think about is just when you do build a fence for that family that has an eloping child, yes, you are keeping them safe, but it's also, I mean, I can recall, you know, and I thought about this, but a mom writing after they got the fence saying, hey, here's a picture of me. I don't have to tether my son literally with not a chain, but like a rope.
Yeah.
And here he is outside playing with his 3 other siblings, and I can cook for them, you know, not having to worry about it. So we're hoping to find, you know, and get into other states with barracks. And we're not trying to get into all 49 by tomorrow, but we're trying to get it to where we can find somebody that wants to partner with us, where the resources and the contractors and stuff, and you know, and that. But yes, the answer though is yes, it's within Alabama, but barracks we'd like to move outside.
So I think, you know, obviously you and I got to know each other in the dad's group, but I don't really think our first true interaction kind of based around barracks. I know we had a family that reached out to us down in Mobile that needed a fence, and their request was, you know, it was a significant investment, and at the time Libby's friends could not, we couldn't pay for it.
Right.
So I was like, but I can't help you, but I know somebody who can. So I think that's when you and I first started talking, and I learned about it, and you know, we were able to pass that off to y'all, and I know y'all knocked it out, and I've talked to the family 2 or 3 times, and they're just, every time it's the gratitude is so overwhelming. And it's something, if you don't live it, you don't understand. Like, I personally can let my 2 other typically developing children just go in the backyard and play, and I trust that they're not going to run away from the house. But not every family has that option, and that's something that is a gift that y'all are giving to other people, and I think that's incredible. So for barracks, for instance, how does somebody put a request in to get services?
So they just have to email, I mean, if they go to addysarmy.org, and whether it's the actual family themselves or if it's a family member or a friend, there's a request form or nomination process. And there's vetting, you know, there's certain requirements that we have to have, obviously a doctor's letter saying that, and barracks is the one that does really only concern autism. These other ones are all inclusive, because with Finn's, you know, we have across the spectrum other special needs, but they just put the request in a nomination, and we kind of have to vet it out. They've got to get certain paperwork to us, and it's a first come first served basis type of thing, and we go from there, and each fence is unique. That's what kind of makes it a little bit harder, is some fences, you know, one of the first questions is like, well, okay, your child's an eloper, but is he also a scaler? And so sometimes you have to build bigger fences than for another child, or the square footage is different, but they just have to go in and do the nomination, and we just kind of, you know, we have a vetting process, and then we go to work once we figured out what the amount is that needs to be raised.
And you hit on it next. So what does fundraising look like? Like, what events do you host? Obviously, I know the golf tournament, and we can talk about that because I know it's upcoming and you're still trying to fill teams, but let's talk about fundraising a little bit.
Do you want to answer that one, or do you want me to?
You can.
All right, so fundraising for us, we've always been very community-based, and really through God, it's been individual basis. We've had businesses that have definitely helped us, but we've always kept it kind of small. But as we get into big, we're going to have to fundraise and get other companies involved to help us, because it's a huge endeavor with that, and creating an endowment for the long term of Addie's Big Army, which we are creating. But we've always done it by essentially word of mouth and or social media. I mean, obviously the golf event was our first time we've really had a big fundraiser specifically for Addie's Army. Now we put all that towards Addie's Big Army, but it's all been, it's really been word of mouth and social media. We've always just been that very mom and pop, so to speak, and we've kind of wanted to keep it that way because our community at the end of the day is Alabama, and that's what we know and who we know, and so we haven't had, other than the golf event, really any event that I can think of. We've had some companies that will help us, but they come to us. We haven't gone out and seek them for the most part.
Tell us more specifics about the golf tournament, how people can get signed up if they're interested.
Yeah, it's weird. Usually I can answer the golf questions, but she's actually the one helping. So helping Mario this year, so she can answer that one.
I believe there's a website. There is a website, but I believe it's addiesgolf.com.
Yeah, it is. That I know. Yes.
It's adysgolf.com, and it's really easily formatted. And so there's a place you can go on there and sign up for either a team or be a whole sponsor. Just different levels of sponsorship. But the neat thing about the golf benefit is it really is telling a story on the golf course about this year, specifically about big and the big culture. And so I feel like it's going to be very enlightening for people, especially that don't have an idea about what it's like to have a special needs child, to hear this perspective and to see it told in a story on the golf course. This year specifically, we're inviting just some key players in the special needs community to come out and be a part, where we just more honor them. We want them to come out and see what we're doing, but also say, hey, you've been a huge part in the special needs community. Thank you. And so we're just trying to bring the community in, as well as, raise some funds for this first part of Big for us.
And I think the event is on October 26th, correct?
26th.
Yeah. And it's at Greystone.
It is at Greystone Legacy.
We will be there. I've already got my team signed up. I don't know who I'm playing with, but we do have a team signed up. So tell me more about who makes up your board, and then how many employees does Addie's Army have?
So currently we have one employee, but once Big starts, we'll have 2 right off the bat, and then the board, we have 5 on the board. They are all local folks within Birmingham and have different backgrounds. Some knowing special needs, some to help us with legality parts, just certain connections. And then we have an advisory board, which, am I losing the count? 4. Mm-hmm. And then we have a board for the endowment that we are forming, and we just have to finish the paperwork on the finish the paperwork for that. So there's 5 of us on the main board, 4 on the advisory, and then 3 on the endowment.
So one question I kind of like to ask all the nonprofits I talk to is, what kind of effects did COVID-19 have on the organization? I know obviously you said there were a few years of just 2020 that we had to skip some of the events, but what other challenges did Addie's Army face through that?
I mean, I really don't feel like it affected our organization as much as some, because a lot of what we do is so, there's nothing other than the racers event that is necessarily community. And so we had to cancel fins, we had to cancel racers. But other than that, we kept going as normal, because so much of what we have done is online, or, we have a contractor going out and building a fence.
Right.
And respite could still run.
Yeah.
Right. And actually, that's what respite started when COVID started, or a few months after it. So we were able to keep moving along, other than fins and racers that one year.
My wife and I have loved respite. Obviously, that's the one that we have done the most. And I was trying to remember, we were talking about it at the most recent one, was like, when did we start? And I couldn't remember, but my mind went back to, I think it was either the night at Helen or the night at, maybe it was Seasons 52, but I can't remember. But I think we've participated in 5 or 6 different respite events, and it's, nights out are so important because, like you said, you don't focus on your marriage a lot of the times. You focus on where do you have to be with this child. You got to be at this therapy. You got to be at this game. And so many times there's a divide between mom and dad. And the respite care to me and to us it's invaluable. And the fact that y'all provide money towards not just the night out, but towards a sitter is incredible, because as special needs parents, you don't always trust just anybody and everybody to come and watch your kids. Sometimes you need a medically gifted person to help with your child. You need a nurse, a doctor, whatever it may be. And some of these other places can't always provide that. So the fact that you say you pick your own sitter, we'll give you funds to that, and then we're giving you funds towards the event it's very much appreciated. And I think I've told you many times, but I appreciate it very much, and I thank you for doing it, because it is invaluable. And my wife and I are probably closer just because of it. So I appreciate that. And I know one thing that I learned when we started this journey a little over 8 years ago was, I think it's 80% of special needs families, when they have a special needs child in the house, end up in divorce. Yeah. That is, it's just an incredibly terrible stat. Yeah. I think about that a lot. And I think, one thing that is neat to me is about our dads group. I think we have over 60 dads in there now, which should represent 60 different families. And I think our divorce rate is less than 10%. Right. So that tells me we've got a community that's doing something right, that's doing something different than the rest of America. And I think y'all play a part in that. So I appreciate
thank you for the kind words. And one, I do want to say one thing is I'll keep them private, but there's a family that provides us the funds for it. And, they know the stats, and they, when we started this back in August of 2020, she said, they are special needs family too, that I really want marriages to be saved. And I said, well, I get it, because, autism led us to a dark path where we were going to, from a financial stress and what have you. And so that family has been very crucial for respite to occur since almost more than 2 years now. And we've, we want it to be where the, couples and the marriages work together, but also just, for the month of May, we may do something specific, for Mother's Day, or June for Father's Day. So we do it also to where it can be a group event, not just marriage, but it is crucial because single parents, like with the cooking and whatnot, because the worst thing that a special needs parent can do is isolation. And it, I know it's only once a month, but it may be that outlet that one time a month to where it's helping. Yes. And
if you think about it too, you're getting out and things are so serious at home. And one thing I don't think we do enough of as special needs families is laugh. We're so serious all the time. And I think these nights out just give people an opportunity just to laugh and to have a good time and to feel safe in that.
Breathe, honestly. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like you're just going so fast and you're so worried about this and that and this and that. It almost is like you forget to take deep breaths. And I completely agree with you.
And you tell yourself it is okay to laugh and have a good time. I don't have to be so serious all the time. No. So.
And people can still sign up for October. So I guess if your marriage is really bad, Selwood clay shooting may not be the best. But,
but won't start there.
But you can sign up for it still, because it's this weekend. So.
So obviously we've hit on some of them, but let's talk about some more success stories. So pick one, or give me an example of something that y'all have been especially proud of. Obviously we've talked about big, but.
Wow. Man, well, one right off the bat that I can think of is in regards to Addie's Fins. It was the third year that we had Addie's Fins, and of course, obviously fins is a little bit like barracks, is that you're trying to teach water safety and it could save a child. That's the main reason. But then it's also because for us, when Addie couldn't swim, we had to be in the pool with her the whole time, and we had to watch her in case she was going to elope or whatever it was. But to me, the biggest success story was a child that went through fins. I think it was, I believe it was fall of 16 or 17. I don't remember the timing. But the mom had a baby on her hand, and it was the next summer, and they were at their lake, and the child jumped into the water, and the mom couldn't swim, also had the baby, and the child, like, it was probably about 8 to 10 feet, if I remember the story correctly, but jumped off and of course went down and then came back up. It was probably a good 4 or 5 feet away from the dock and swam over. And she said, without that last year, I would have lost my daughter. And that's just, that's the extreme of a really awesome case. I mean, you don't want it to get to that situation, but that's, to me, to save a child's life, that probably, when I read that, it took me a while to just grasp it all. I'm trying to think what else. Addie's Symphony, it's just more fun. So, the kids that enjoy music, and I'm trying to think. We've gotten emails about respite to where it's like, hey, this is really lots of respite success stories of like, this is so crucial for us in our marriage and keeping it together, and we really appreciate it. And of course they feel guilty, like, are we allowed to sign up every month? We're like, yes. It doesn't matter if you want to do it once or every month, it doesn't matter to us. So it's just, those are, and I think the biggest success story of them all is just that we have kept going for 7.5 years. For us, while still raising Addie and just having a handful of volunteers and people that really have gotten behind us for the last 7.5 years. Because without them and whatnot, racers, that doesn't happen without volunteers, and so.
Yeah, because it hasn't been easy, the whole process through Addie's Army. There's been so much, I felt like, attack on our family, where it's like, okay, you should be doing all of these things, and then the favor of God just falls on you, and it's going to be easy and great. But, you're walking in it, and it's like, oh, here comes something else, and just knowing that, we've been sustained through it, and we just keep pushing forward every time something else throws an arrow at us.
Because there's a lot of arrows coming right now before Addie's Big starts, because it's a big endeavor. There's a lot of different things, a lot of pieces, and a lot of different paperwork, so to speak. And we've been on cruise control, like we know what to control over the last 7 years of running everything. But Addie's Big Army is completely different, because when we first started Addie's Big Army, truthfully, we were like, what's the exit plan 15, 20 years? But now with Addie's Big Army, it's something that we want to make sure is sustained when we are long gone, Addie's long gone, and that helps families way beyond generational than when we're here. So it's a whole different perspective now than it was with these, because all these other ones, if we wanted to shut it down tomorrow because of stress, we could, but at the same time, there's been moments where by doing this, it's truly helped us, because when as tough as it can be with Addie sometimes, when you hear these other family stories, you're like, okay, well, they've got it a lot harder, or their situation's a lot harder, and serving others kind of helps you.
It does. It 100% does.
Yeah.
It makes the harder days, you appreciate, you just have a greater appreciation when you are able to help other people, I think. So if we come back in 1 year, what is your goal? What will you hope have taken place for Addie's Army?
The big thing after a year, I would say, is our fundraising piece, because we want, after a year, to have a large portion of what we need for that permanent space for our work center, our gift shop, and our coffee shop bakery. Like we need
residential.
The residential will be multiple years down the road. But, temporary, first things first is we want this, it's going to be anywhere from 3 to 5 acres to have this property. So we would like to have this land determined, and we would like to have the funding to go ahead and purchase so we can begin building Addie's Big.
Do you have an idea of where you're looking, where you want it, or are you open to anywhere around the metro area?
We're pretty open. We know that we want this first piece of land to be in the face of the community. We don't want to be, in the outskirts. We want to be right there where the community is. One big thing that Big is really good about is they want to change the way the world views this population. And there's no better way to do that than to put them right in the face of everyone. So we want it to be in kind of like a busy area. Where that's going to be, we're not sure. We know that down the line, we want to have the other land for residential to be within 10 miles of the other property. And so keeping in mind that, we're pretty flexible as to where we're going to be. We're just kind of keeping our eyes open at this point.
So what would be your, and this may be hard to answer, I know it would be for me too, but give me some goals for 3 years down the road.
3 years,
You'll be transitioning into...
to the property, if all goes as we pray that it will.
We all know how plans go, right?
Yeah, so
exactly.
we don't know what's going to happen, but we would like to be out of Lakeside Baptist and into our property. Once we get into our new property, we will be full force working on this residential piece, because that's the number one reason we're doing all of this, is we want to have a strong, incredible residential program.
Gotcha. So as a person who's involved with Addie's Army, as a parent of a special needs person, and as just a parent, how can we help Addie's Army be successful?
You want short term? Short term, one of the things that we are really diligently looking for that we have not found that we absolutely have to have, I mean, this is short term by February, is a fudge kettle. That is one of the top things we need. They're fairly expensive. Could we purchase it? Yes, but it's a pretty big expense. But it's one of the entities that all the special need, the citizens will be doing, because fudge is one, it's very highly profitable. We've had it; it's tremendous. We're actually going to have it at the golf event on October 26th for people to have. But that's
We're going to have the fudge, not the fudge kettle.
Yeah, the fudge. Sorry, the fudge. Yeah. Well, maybe we will have a fudge kettle. I don't know, but that's the short term. The long term is just getting our name out there and what we're doing. Because we're on a limited budget as far as and time, as far as trying to get to businesses to say, hey, do you want to be a part of this?
Yes.
And not just for Addie's Big at Lakeside to get us off the ground, but we're talking the long-term thing, because we're thinking the long term of where we need to be. Because really, when Addie's Big starts on next February, honestly, we're now in planning mode of okay, where's the land going to be to transition out? And then once we get that land, it's okay, now we got to start thinking 10, 15 miles away. So it's really just getting our name out there
And finding community partners,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
organizations that have a heart for what we're doing, that want to support us. We really need partnerships. We really need a program director. We have some resumes that were sent in for Big, but we need to find the right program director. So we're just all in looking for that right now as well.
Yeah.
So helping get the word out, what social media presence do y'all have?
We have Facebook and Instagram.
Yep.
So everybody go like their pages and share everything they share. That's everything I've got. Is there anything else y'all want to hit on?
No, we just thank you for the time and
Yeah.
allowing us to discuss what our big plans are and what we're trying to do. And we know that it's going to be tough. When we first started, we didn't know what we were doing when we started Addie's Army, but we learned along the way, and it's going to be it already is another learning adventure for Addie's Big, just the different just the different things that come with it. So it's really just prayer. We need prayer, and that we can keep our sanity, that we can get the right partners and make this happen.
Well, I thank y'all for your time. It's been a very enjoyable time. I personally love Addie's Army, and I'm thankful that we've gotten to know y'all. And like I said, it means so much to us, and we will do everything we can to help and to support and to spread the word.